Hello all, welcome back to our lectures. Today we'll be talking about energy in the biosphere. This will be the beginning of, we already started the biochemistry part of this class, but this will be the beginning of intermediary metabolism. And let's take it off from there. But before we do that, I have something special for you. A beautiful quote from one of the greatest men that ever lived this earth. He says, "I never lose, I either win or learn." I'm not going to say anything about it. It's a point for you to ponder about. All right, so at the end of this class, we have 3 learning objectives we want to get from this class. Number 1, we'll be describing the major steps of energy flow in the biosphere. The biosphere is the living part of the earth. Biosphere, where you have life, that's what I mean. We understand metabolism, like I said, we'll be introduced to the intermediary metabolism, and finally, we'll outline the 3 steps in extraction of energy from food by living organisms. How do living organisms get energy, get the chemical energy that's locked in this nutrient? Those are the 3 learning objectives for this class. Let's take it off immediately. Energy flow in the biosphere. The energy flow in the biosphere can be divided into 3 principal ways. I'm going to try to say, okay, there are 3 stages of energy flow. Number 1, it starts from the energy from the sun. The sun is the ultimate source of energy. We've always known this. The sun is the ultimate source of energy. It is the ultimate source of energy. That is where every other thing derives that energy from. So it's the ultimate source of energy in the biosphere. Those energy that are used for biochemical reactions are derived from that simple. And what is happening? Now, what is happening in the sun is that there is a nuclear reaction taking place in the sun, which we call the nuclear fission, whereby the respective smaller isotopes of hydrogen are combining together to form helium. What we see here is the simplified way, the simplified structure of the reaction. The reaction is much more complex than what we see here, but we're not getting into the real chemistry of it. Usually the small isotopes are the deuterium is combining with tritium to form helium. We're not going to be going into those parts, but let's just say that the hydrogen ions, hydrogen molecules or ions in any form that exist at that level are combining together to form helium. And as they do this, nuclear fission releases huge amount of energy. Huge amount of energy. A lot of energy is released from this process in stage 1 in energy flow. Now what happens next? In stage 2, this energy cannot be used by human beings. The plant comes in this place. In stage 2, plants come in. How do plants do this? They do it in the process of photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? We know the green pigment in plants, which is called the chlorophyll. The chlorophyll is located in the chloroplast. The chloroplast is an organelle that is found only in the plant cell and not in the animal cell. The chloroplast is a pigment that attracts or absorbs this energy and uses that energy in synthesis of carbohydrate. Particularly the first molecule being synthesized is glucose. So what happens here is that the energy from the sun is being absorbed by the chloroplast in the plant. This shows the plant leaf. So what it means is that now the plant uses carbon dioxide, which is a gas, of course, plus water, liquid, let's put it liquid at this point, to produce carbohydrate. The carbohydrate is the first carbohydrate being produced. Okay, I'm missing something. I have to put the energy plus the energy there. Energy is needed. The first carbohydrate produced is glucose, C6H12O6. And the byproduct of this reaction is oxygen. In fact, photosynthesis is so important because we're not just getting a source of storage nutrient. We're also getting oxygen. The oxygen that we need to respire comes as a byproduct in photosynthesis. That is how important photosynthesis it is at this point. So here the energy from the sun, remember this energy is coming from the sun, is used in forming glucose. Now glucose can now be converted to carbohydrate. This glucose will later be converted. This glucose now will later be converted to the bigger carbohydrate, polysaccharide. We can say starch. Let me just use starch instead of just saying polysaccharide. Let's say starch can be converted to triglyceride and other storage forms of nutrients. That is exactly what is happening there. Like I said again, this energy is coming directly from the sun. If it is left for the animals alone, we cannot make good use of this, and this has to be done by plant. Now the stage 2. In the third stage, number 3, or you can say it's third level, because the energy flow, we're looking at the level of energy flow, so we can say third level of the stage, it doesn't matter. Now in the animal here represented by a big cattle or cow, what is going on? Now animals will quickly go and obtain this energy now stored in plant. How do we obtain it? We go and eat this food. We go and eat this storage storage form of energy in plants, like the starch or other forms of it. We eat it, and when we eat it, what happens? We now break that food down to release energy again. And the energy that is released is now used. Look at what is happening here. So we get this carbohydrate, particularly in form of glucose, we break it down in respiration. Respiration is the process. And then what happens? In respiration, we now release what? Carbon dioxide and water and energy. And the energy released here, now part of that energy is released as heat, other ones are released as ATP. ATP is the only useful part of energy that we need. And this ATP is called the energy currency of the cell. This can be used to carry out chemical work in biosynthesis, mechanical work like contraction of muscles, and osmotic work like active transport in the body. So in the test, remember here we have photosynthesis. Oh, I didn't write it. Okay, I think I would want to write photosynthesis. The second stage, remember, we said the first one was the sun gets this in nuclear fission. Okay, I didn't write it either, but it's okay. We just know the names. This is the first process is nuclear fission. The second process is photosynthesis. Let me just write this. And the last process is respiration, cellular respiration. In cellular respiration, we are now breaking down this carbohydrate or other forms of nutrients to generate energy that we use in powering our biochemical work. So what is happening here is, if our respiration is the reverse of photosynthesis, it's the opposite of photosynthesis. So what is happening here? Let's see. We now start with our glucose again. Okay, this equation is not balanced. I always like balancing my equations. I'm going to have a 6 here. This is still a chemistry class, so it's good we balance every equation. This is going to be a 6, and this is going to be a 6 at this point. Now, if I turn this equation now, this is photosynthesis. If I reverse this equation, it's going to be respiration. So let's see. I'm going to start from glucose. C6H12O6. Of course, can be solid, can be liquid at this point. It doesn't matter. Then plus oxygen is now going to convert it back to CO2 gas, plus we're going to release it as gas as well at this point. So this is going to be 6. We're going to have 6 at this point. So this is respiration. Technically, I said it, respiration is the opposite of photosynthesis. So like I said, part of this energy released as heat, which we don't usually use, although it's important in maintaining insulation for our body. However, most importantly, the ATP is what we need, which we call the energy currency of the cell, is what we use in powering various biochemical, metabolic, or mechanical work in the body. All right, so this is the flow of energy in the biosphere. Let's get to the next thing. Now, the carbon cycle. Now, having known, like I told you, having known already that respiration is the reverse of photosynthesis, I already said that this is the reverse of photosynthesis. What it simply means is that what we're actually doing in that process is to recycle carbon. That's exactly. Now, look at what happens here. In photosynthesis, carbon dioxide combines with water to become photosynthesis. That is photosynthesis to form carbohydrate, sorry. Carbon dioxide combines with water to form carbohydrate in a process of photosynthesis. Now, we now derive this carbohydrate in respiration and break it back to this. So this is a typical way we recycle carbon in the biosphere, so that we don't have to run out of carbon, because we need it all the time. And this interchange is both needed between plants and the animal, which are what the ecosystem of the biosphere. All right, we now go to the first reflection question. It says, which of these sequences is written in order of energy transfer from the sun to us? I gave you already, when you look at all of them, I started from fission as the number one. I talked about photosynthesis, I talked about respiration. So the first one is number one is the correct choice. It is fission, photosynthesis, and respiration. All right, let's now talk about metabolism. I said this chapter is going to introduce us to intermediary metabolism, because by the time we begin to go down in the next two modules, we'll be getting into the metabolism of carbohydrate, metabolism of lipids, metabolism of proteins, and that is exactly how we're going to finish. So metabolism is just the sum total of 4 chemical reactions taking place in the living organism. Those reactions that are taking place in the biosphere are what we categorize as what? Metabolism. And metabolism is divided into two. First one is catabolism and anabolism. Catabolism simply means breaking down, those reactions that result to the breaking down of large or complex molecules. That is what we call what? Catabolism. And the ultimate aim of most catabolism is to release energy. Catabolic reactions release energy, because it is only at this point that we get energy that we can use in maintaining various biochemical activities that is taking place to maintain the living organism. All right, to maintain life. So good examples is glycolysis. Glycolysis simply means glucose. Lysis, breakdown of glucose is glycolysis. That is usually the first metabolic pathway we're going to be seeing. Beta oxidation is actually called breaking down of fatty acid. We're going to call it beta oxidation of fatty acid. And we're going to know why these words are being used. Now, on the other hand, the second part of metabolism is anabolism. Anabolism simply what? Involves reactions involving what? Synthesis of biomolecules. Usually this type of reaction whereby you come from small molecules and synthesize big ones, produce big ones. Now, the opposite, it is the direct opposite of catabolism. Now, it does not release energy. Instead, it does what? It requires energy in form of either the energy currencies we talked about or the reducing equivalent. It's an energy costly process. However, those energy process are usually compensated by the catabolic energy releasing processes. And good examples is photosynthesis, we just talked about, and glycogenesis simply means building up of glycogen from glucose. Now, we're going to be talking about metabolic pathway. Metabolic pathway is just a sequence of reactions which is used to produce one product or which is used to accomplish in one process, involving series of what? Where molecules are converted, we already did enzymes, a substrate is converted to a product, another product becomes the substrate and converted to another product. And these metabolic pathways are actually done by enzymes, which are our biological catalysts. Good examples, we're going to be talking about a lot of them, but good examples I have here is what? The citric acid cycle is a good example. The electron transport chain, even the glycolysis I told you, and the beta oxidation. Those are all metabolic pathways that we'll be talking about as we move on in this class. Now, catabolism of food are in 3 stages. This is going to form an important part of this class. The catabolism of food are in 3 stages. Remember, we said part of the objective is part of the last objective we talked about is that how will living organisms extract energy from nutrients. Now, catabolism is that aspect of metabolism that releases energy. How will organisms do this? There are 3 stages. It involves 3 main stages to do this. In the first stage, complex molecules are digested in the digestive system by digestive enzymes. Complex biomolecules like proteins are acted upon in hydrolysis. Most of them are broken down through hydrolysis by enzymes to amino acids, which are the simple ones. The enzymes that does this work here are usually what? Peptidases usually. Now, disaccharide and polysaccharide, complex molecules, and this disaccharide means two two monosaccharide units, and polysaccharides are converted to monosaccharide. Monosaccharide like the glucose, the fructose, the galactose in hydrolysis. And most enzymes that digest polysaccharide are usually amylases. The amylases come in here to break them down. Whereas the fats and oil, or we call the lipids, remember the fats and oil, if you don't want to say fats and oil, you can easily say lipids. Lipids are now broken down to fatty acid and glycerol. The glycerol also enters the glycolytic pathway, the fatty acid enters the beta oxidation pathway, of course. So hydrolysis of lipids is actually done by the enzyme lipases. Lipases actually come in to do this breakdown. This is what happens in stage 1, in the digestive tract, in the alimentary canal. That is where this is taking place in the digestive system, what we say. If you don't want to say the digestive system, you can say, or the duct, or you can say alimentary canal. In the second stage, these small molecules, we can call them building block molecules. So you can say they are simple units, simplest unit. Smaller molecules are now broken down into even simpler units. What it means is that you now break either amino acid or glucose or fatty acid into simpler units. And this time, the simpler unit is a primary common intermediate for all these biomolecules. And that common primary intermediate is called acetyl-CoA. It is a 2-carbon unit that has the acetyl group on this side, and then it has, okay, it's already there, the acetyl group on this side and the coenzyme A. We're going to be talking about the role of coenzyme A in the second part of this lecture. We said coenzymes are those particular molecules that help enzymes to achieve their purpose of catalysis. Now, this is a coenzyme. So, this is acetyl coenzyme. Its main job is to transfer an acetyl group from one molecule to another. So, this is what is happening. And this particular reaction, of course, is taking place in the cytoplasm. This is taking place in the cytoplasm of the organism. All right. Or you can say the cytosol. So, in the last stage, what happens? In the last stage, common reactions. So after, like I said, okay, wait, let me go back. Remember, we said all these guys are all converted into a primary 2-carbon intermediate of the acetyl-CoA. It is now this acetyl-CoA that will be used in the citric acid cycle and the electron transport chain. The citric acid cycle and the electron transport chain. The electron transport chain is a series of proteins that transfer electrons from one another until they transfer it to the last acceptor, which now uses that energy to generate ATP, which is the commonest reducing equivalence we need. That is the ultimate goal of catabolism, to produce ADP. So the reactions of citric acid cycle plus those of the electron transport chain and the oxidative phosphorylation will result what? To converting those food nutrients to generate what? ATP molecule. So the purpose of this last step is to convert the chemical energy in this food, in these nutrients, to what? ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And this adenosine triphosphate is called the energy currency of the cell, because that is the form in which cells can actually buy and sell energy in the body. So this is the structure. We're going to talk about this in the next class, but I'm going to show you that. So ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, is a nucleotide. A nucleotide, of course, is made up of a base. Is made up of a base. This is the nitrogenous base, adenine here. The adenine is connected to a ribose sugar. Ribose sugar is not deoxyribose. Deoxyribose is the one we see in DNA. So to a ribose sugar. And the ribose sugar is now connected to what? To a triphosphate. This triphosphate, now the breaking of this triphosphate is what results in the liberation of huge amount of energy. The hydrolysis of this triphosphate, which is a high anhydral bond, is energy rich, and that is what releases the energy that ATP uses to power metabolic activity. And we're going to be seeing this in the next page as what I call the big picture. The big picture in metabolism, the 3 stages of catabolism, the big picture. What is the big picture? Let's look at it. Now, this picture is encompassing and contains everything you need to know about the 3 stages of metabolism. Okay, let's take them one by one. In stage 1, we say large molecules are broken down into simpler molecules, or what we call building block molecules. Proteins are broken down to amino acids. These are done by enzymes. Polysaccharides are broken down to simple sugars. Fat and oil, which you get from your margarine or butter, are broken down to fatty acid and glycerol. This is stage 1. In stage 2, these building block molecules are converted to a common intermediate, which we call the acetyl-CoA. Look at it, the common intermediate at this point, acetyl-CoA. Now, let me highlight that. It's converted to the common intermediate, acetyl-CoA. So, now, all these things, all the biomolecules are broken down to this common intermediate. Let's see the pathway. Glucose, first of all, gets into glycolysis. Glycolysis releases few amount of ATP and few NADH. It is first of all converted to pyruvate. Then pyruvate can now be decarboxylated to acetyl-CoA. When it is decarboxylated to acetyl-CoA, decarboxylation means it releases to carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is always released as what? We take that, we remove that from the nose in respiration. Right? So we exhale it because it is a waste. It can also come from here. All right. And then, so this is happening in stage 2. What about protein? Let's look at protein. Protein, remember, this stage 2 is happening in the cytoplasm. And stage 3, I didn't mention it. Stage 3 is happening in the what? In the mitochondria. Mitochondria. We call it the energy house or the powerhouse of the cell. All right, so let's continue with it. So the amino acid can now do 2 things. They can be converted to pyruvate, or they can also be converted back to acetyl-CoA, depending on the pathway involved. And then, because amino acid has amino group, whenever they are broken down, they are usually converted to a keto acid, like pyruvate is a keto acid. Now, they lose the amino group, which goes to ammonia, and this ammonia is used in production of urea, which will now excrete through the kidney. Anyways, so like I said, this is happening in stage what? Still in stage 1, of course. Sorry, still in stage 2. In another stage, let's look at fatty acid. Fatty acids are done what? Fatty acids are broken down to acetyl-CoA directly. We don't convert acetyl, they don't go to pyruvate, they go to acetyl-CoA directly. So in stage 2, all these molecules are converted to acetyl-CoA in one way or the other. Now, what about stage 3? Stage 3 is the big one. In stage 3, look at what is happening here. This acetyl-CoA now enters the citric acid cycle. The citric acid cycle generates huge amount of NADH and FADH, a lot of them. These NADH and FADH that are generated are now used in, now the process that leads to the generation of these is the citric acid cycle. So the citric acid cycle are now fed into the electron transport chain, where the electrons are now transported and used in the synthesis of huge amount of energy in the process of oxidative phosphorylation. So all this is happening. Remember, this is the cytoplasm outside, but this structure you see inside is our what? Is our mitochondria. I'm not going to write it full. I'm just going to say mitochondria. That is the mitochondria. Now, so like I said, the oxidative phosphorylation generates huge amounts of energy, and this energy is the ultimate goal of catabolism. And this energy is used to power various metabolic activities in the body. And this, remember, is an aerobic process. So oxygen is needed in this process. That's why we call it oxidative phosphorylation. And then it leads to what? Generation of water. Water also goes out as waste again. Now, in this process of citric acid cycle, while it is being done, it is also generating a lot of carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide goes down again and is also exhaled by the living organism. That is exactly. Now, if you also go from this way again, you find out that the amino acids themselves can also go directly into the citric acid cycle, where they are broken down, also giving carbon dioxide is exhaled, and part of them also goes as ammonia, goes to ammonia. Ammonia itself is converted to urea, and urea is excreted in the kidneys. Remember, urea is formed in the pathway we call the uric acid cycle. And from here to here is what we call stage 3. So stage 3 involves oxidation of acetyl-CoA to water and carbon dioxide, production of ATP and NADH and FADH in the mitochondria, and ultimately electron transport chain, which will convert all this NADH and FADH to ATP, because the production of ATP is the ultimate goal of catabolism. This is the big picture. And it's important you keep this picture by your side, because we're going to always try to make reference to this big picture, stages of catabolism. All right, we now go to the next thing. The last slide, but not the least, comes up with our what? Reflection. Our reflection 2 says, the purpose of DASH pathway is to convert chemical energy in food into molecules of DASH. The answer is what? The purpose of catabolic pathways is to convert chemical energy in food into molecules of what? ATP. It is this molecule of ATP that is used to power various activities in the body. Is it metabolic work? Is it osmotic work? Is it mechanical work? We need ATP to do this. And having said that, we've come to the end of this lecture. Thank you for listening. Bye.